Hi, welcome back to the digital world. I'll be your host, Remy. And today's a bit special because we're in the right timeline. I finally did the Rave Master video. And man, y'all really came out for that. Like, dang, 10K strong plus? Should have done that sooner. Shinzo video, it is definitely coming at some point in the future. This is the right timeline now, so we're gonna get there. I promise we're gonna get there. But unfortunately, today is not Shinzo. No, today we're getting back into the Digimon franchise retrospective. And today, we're doing one of, if not the most popular season in all of Digimon. Yes, today we're talking about the dark season, the scary season, the one you don't tell your parents about season, the one where Guilmon's death was actually permanent. Yes, today, we're talking about Digimon Tamers, the season that shook the digital world to its core, from its themes, its plot, to its digi-evolutions, which always looked mad painful to me as a kid. Because this season was like no season before it, and honestly, I feel like nothing's touched it ever since. And that's why me and so many other people consider this season so special. And I knew I had to come correct, because honestly, you can't do Tamers a disservice. In my opinion, Tamers is easily the most interesting season of Digimon. So, without further ado, as I like to say in all of these Digimon franchise retrospectives, get your goggles, get nostalgic, and maybe get you some water, because we're getting digital with the big one. This is the Digimon franchise retrospective, and today, we're becoming Tamers. If you couldn't tell, Digimon Tamers is the season where Digimon decided it had to grow up. Not just as the kids show, but the franchise itself. Because while Adventure 02 was about hope, friendship, and that bright future after a dark time, and it always had the vibe of a Saturday morning cartoon with that level of optimism. You know, the kind where they save the world and everybody ends up happy at the end of it. But Tamers decided to flip that script. They noticed that times were changing and they wanted to change with the franchise. But don't get me wrong, they didn't throw away the spirit of adventures. It was still there, but it just wasn't as comforting. It was complicated, it was darker. And in a way, it made it feel like something that needed to be tamed. In this season, not all Digimon were friendly. They weren't always just happy partners, trying to teach the kids about love and courage. Some of the Digimon were just straight up enemies, like just ops to the kids, or using the kids for their own ends. These weren't destined partners in this season. That's why you don't hear terms like Digi-destined throughout Tamers. They're not destined partners. They're not drawn together by strings of fate or anything higher power-wise drawing them together. And for a lot of our main cast, they just happen to meet Digimon one day and start working with them. And that's why Tamers is so different. This is the first season in Digimon where the kids weren't Digi-destined. They were just kids brought together by circumstances and thrown into a situation involving Digimon that were bigger than anything they ever planned for in their lives. And all they could do was adapt to that situation, because if they didn't, they could die. And that's so interesting for a show. Like, come on. Because only in Tamers do you find Digimon that are aggressive off rip, that have no moral compass. Some of them don't even have emotions or even considered living beings. Just evil programs with no empathy at all. And some question what it meant to even be alive for a kids show. And that's because Tamers wasn't just about kids with digital pets. It was about the nature of reality itself. It asked, if you created life out of data, do you really get to call yourself a partner? Or are you some kind of sadistic god that left their creatures alone because they were too scared of what they made? Shout out Spy Kids. And because of these mistakes by the creators, it forces these kids not to just face their own enemies, but to face their own flaws. Rika, Takato, Henry, all of them had to grow up fast because their Digimon reflected the parts of themselves they couldn't ignore anymore. And if that wasn't different enough from the last two series, Tamers went places that most kids shows never even dared to go themselves. It wasn't afraid of trauma, it wasn't afraid of grief, and it wasn't afraid to say that sometimes, no matter how hard you fight, loss is permanent, and you can't wish back the dead because you feel guilty about it. That's why Guilmon's death didn't just sting, it shatters Jerry's entire world, and with it, the audience's idea of what Digimon was actually about. So when I say this is the dark season, I mean this, because we're looking back on the season that dared to grow with its audience, show them actual storytelling, and prove to us once and for all that Digimon is not just a Pokemon clone. Yes, this is the one that blurred the lines between fantasy and reality, that told these kids to wake up, samurai, because we got a city to burn. This is Tamers, this is peak, and I am so excited to talk about this. By the time Digimon Adventure 02 wrapped up, the franchise had to make a choice. A, they could keep cranking out more Digi-destined stories until the wheels fell off, Or B, they could try something new. Toei Animation and Bandai decided to go with B, surprisingly. And so they greenlit a darker/riskier season that was sure to form a rift between new and old fans. But honestly, Bandai just went back to their roots with Digimon. No longer were they quote-unquote just digital pets. They brought them back to their roots, the real roots of being digital monsters. And this is where Chiaki Kanaka comes in, the GOAT! And Kanaka wasn't just a random hire. This man was a veteran in the game when it comes to darker themes. Also, he wrote an episode for Adventure 02. You know that one episode about the dark ocean that goes literally nowhere? That was him. So you take that energy from that one episode of the Dark Ocean, and then you cover an entire series with that dog. How insane is that? We are so lucky we got this guy. And that's not to say his work prior to that episode is also crazy. I don't know if you heard of this small niche anime called Serial Experience Lane. I don't know. You ever heard of that? Pretty niche anime. This dude, like, come on, this is my guy's work right here. We are in his bag with this kind of psychological, technology-focused eldritch horror bag. And we got that for a Digimon show. How insane is that, man? Because if there's one thing this man is good at writing about, it's the kind of series that makes you question if the internet is actually trying to eat your brain. So, 2000s brain rot in a sense. He wasn't wrong about the internet doing that, he just didn't know it would come in the way of TikTok. And not some crazy guy gaslighting you into thinking you're not a real person and that he's trying to be a god. So, he got there, just in a roundabout way, technically. All this to say, bringing him onto the franchise means that Tamers was never going to be another Saturday morning cartoon show. It was going to dig into philosophy and what happens when you mix children with the consequences of their own creation. And as much as I'm gassing this up, Toei didn't just hand him the keys to the kingdom and said, hey, do what you want to do, we'll just write a check. They clearly needed some checks and balances. So they paired him with Yukio Kaizawa, a director with a history of fresh takes on long-running properties like Bikiri Man. And with these two together, Bandai gave them a bit of freedom, more than you would expect from a franchise as established or as popular as Digimon. Because they realized, as popular as Adventure 02 was, they were scared about franchise fatigue, which is a very real thing if you look at any Marvel movie, because I'm tired of all Marvel movies currently. I still haven't seen Thunderbolts. Am I gonna? Probably not. I don't know, man. I'm tired, bro. After Endgame, my Marvel interest is definitely waned to almost zero at this point. So before all Digimon fans can become jaded Marvel fans like myself, they used Tamers as a test case for how far they could stretch Digimon as a concept. And of course, while there was hesitation, because little Timmy might have been scared of how dark the season got, and that would negatively affect toy sales for said season, they realized that if they did grow with their fan base, they'll create a loyal one, and eventually, it'll trickle down into new fans from their parents and so on and so forth. So Tamers was a calculated risk, one that they hoped would carve out a unique niche for their monster collector genre that wouldn't just slot them into the next Pokemon clone. They wanted to be their own thing. They wanted to be a franchise with depth. In short, Tamers was born from a mix of creative freedom, calculated risk, and a trust in a writer who specializes in asking uncomfortable questions. And that shot in the dark that they took shaped the best season in Digimon, in my opinion. So once Tamers was greenlit, the creative team didn't just want to make Adventure 03, they wanted to elevate the entire franchise. Therefore, the writers leaned into a vision that treated Digimon less like Saturday morning mascots and more like living beings, not pets, not just partners, but friends and eventually family. And it was that shift alone that made the stakes feel heavier. Because if your Digimon is family, then losing one isn't just a game mechanic, there's no Digi-Egg at the end of the tunnel. They're just gone. Their code is evaporating into air, into the ether, and you have to live with that, and it becomes devastating. But the realism went deeper than just relationships. Kanaka wanted to explore what it would actually mean if Digimon showed up in the real world. How would they eat? How would they sleep? What would happen if a giant monster fight broke out in the middle of Shinjuku? We know how that turns out actually. If you've seen JJK, you know what I'm talking about. That was an incident and a half. And he wanted to know, does that fight get solved with a friendship speech? It did not in JJK. It did not in JJK. The writings in Tamers grounded the digital world in something closer to an eldritch nightmare rather than a Saturday morning isekai vacation. The smaller cast helped with the focus. Instead of juggling 12 different kids and 12 different storylines like Adventure does, Tamers honed in on just 3 kids and their partners. And that choice to shrink the main cast gave the writers enough room and air to breathe to fully develop the personal struggles of each of the main cast members, like Takato's insecurity, Rika's anger, and Henry's burden of responsibility, and then directly tie those flaws into their partner Digimon. So the growth in this show clearly wasn't just about powering up. It was about growing as a person, because as the situation elevates, the Tamers, the kids, had to grow up with that situation. They couldn't be held back by these insecurities, this anger, and this burden that they found themselves in at the beginning of the series. Because if they did, they would have died. Because Tamers is about growing up whether you want to or not. But then, here's the real kicker, the choices had weight. Like, legitimately, when I said die, people die. Tamers' death stuck. Because we all know the meme, Guilmon dies every season, but in Tamers, this is the one time that it was different. Because the death wasn't just a plot twist, it was trauma. For Jerry, for the whole team, and honestly, for everyone who's watching that as a kid, because you're like, wait, where's his Digi-Egg? Why isn't he's not, oh no. And that is what happened to everyone. That darkness wasn't just thrown in for shock value. It was there to underline the consequences of creating, raising, and fighting alongside a living creature. Every battle mattered, every mistake carried scars. Evolution itself was reimagined in the series as a painful process, like growing as a person, reflected in the Digimon's evolution of the series comparatively to Season 1 and Season 2, where you just get a little cool montage and spinning lights and Agumon is now War Greymon. In this series, you see Terriermon's skin get ripped off aggressively. Every time one of the Digimon digivolve in the series, it looks like it hurts. You go from Terriermon to Rapidmon, it looks like it's painful, like actual growth is. It's not easy, it's not fun, but when you get through it, you're a better person for it. And at the end of that growth, when they finally accept everything, come to terms with everything, embrace everything that they are, you get the final stage of evolution in Tamers, Digimodification, Digi-Bio-Evolution, or just Biomerge evolution. And if you couldn't tell from the name of it, it literally means merging with your partner. This wasn't just a cool power-up, which it was, granted, it was a very cool power-up. It was the ultimate expression of trust, connection, and vulnerability. And that could only have been reached through the darker tone in this series. It wasn't just an aesthetic, it was an engine. It let the Tamers tell a story about trauma, grief, and responsibility in a way that TV shows almost never touched. And in doing so, it gave the franchise one of its most unique, emotional, and lasting entries into the Digimon franchise. Okay, since this is the Digimon franchise retrospective, I figured I should probably recap the entire story. Man, I know editing this part is gonna suck, but I like you guys, so I'ma do it. I'm just not gonna enjoy doing it. So if Digimon Adventure was about exploring a brand new world, then Tamers is about surviving that world when it starts bleeding into ours. And our story starts here, with 3 kids, their Digimon, a government agency that treated Digimon like national security threats, which they should have, by the way. So let's get into the first arc, the Devas arc. That's gonna make sense when I put the clip in.
Hail to the Deva, he who drinks of the light of man and expands himself and looks like a right big chicken.
If I can't put the clip in, this will be awkward and you won't get that reference. But if I can, you'll see what I mean. It all starts off small, as we're introduced to our Digi-Destins, quote-unquote, for this season. Takato doodles a Digimon in his sketchbook, and Guilmon literally comes to life. You know, God Takato confirmed. Next, we get introduced to Henry, who already has Terriermon, but refuses to let him fight. And I get it. Like, I really get it. I wouldn't let Terriermon fight either. After getting hurt one time, bro, like, I'm boxing Digimons like I'm Marcus. Terriermon, sit back. I got this. I'm finna throw hands with this champion level, bro. You are not getting hurt while I'm around. You got the game all kinds of messed up if you think I'm gonna let my little buddy get into a fight and I'm not finna fight for him. Absolutely, you got the game messed up. I mean, look at it. It's just a little dude. I'm not letting little dudes fight big dudes. Absolutely. No, Terriermon, just sit down. I got this. Just chill out, dog. You are perfect the way you are. Here's a little lab coat. Put that lab coat on. You're adorable. Stay there. Stop it. This is what you call peak rookie level design. You don't get better than Terriermon. I'm sorry. Argue with your mamas, not with me, because I don't care. And finally, the last of the trio, we get to the Digimon Queen, aka Rika, who's obsessed with being the best tamer, treating Renamon more like a weapon rather than a partner. And Renamon, man, is easily the victim of a fan base that's growing up with you and understanding certain things that they didn't as kids. Hey, yo, isn't that the Golden? Hey, yo, chill. Shit, we ain't gotta say that. We ain't gotta say that. And those are our main protagonists and their partners. And our story starts when Digimon start coming into the real world. Through slow battles and a little bit of character growth, all of our characters get introduced to each other and start establishing relationships between each other, establishing characteristics, and helping them develop as characters in the early arcs. But after the shenanigans of the first couple episodes subside, we eventually get to the bigger problem, the Devas. These 12 Digimon are sent by the Sovereigns to capture Guilmon, a strange little Digimon who turns out to be the literal embodiment of Digi-evolution itself, and you didn't realize Digi-evolution could be as annoying as it was till they gave it a voice. And while all this is happening with the Tamers versus the Devas, for once, the first time in any Digimon media, the adults are doing stuff. We take that. We take the bare minimum win for adults. Ugh, we love to not leave it up to children to save the world. Adults doing bare minimums. We love to see it. The adults are part of a government agency called Hypno, led by Yamaki. And what Hypno does is they try to contain the outbreak of Digimon with cold and efficiency, treating Digimon like viruses that need to be deleted, which, if we're being a little bit honest, a little bit pragmatic, makes sense. So am I pro Team Hypno? No, but I'm also like not anti-Hypno. To some extent. It makes some valid points. But Hypno isn't the only group of adults doing stuff. You also have the group Henry Fowler's a part of, aka the Monster Makers, scientists who accidentally created the Digimon years earlier. So while the kids are learning what it means to be a tamer, the adults are either trying to mitigate damage or trying to fix the mistakes they helped unleash. So yeah though, this is the first Digimon series where the adults are actually doing things, which as an adult myself, it's cool that we don't leave it up to 14 to 10-year-olds to save the world for once. Truthfully, the adults weren't much help overall, but nonetheless, we take it because it's kind of cool. Okay, so we're gonna jump real fast to the next arc. So yeah, the Devas make off with Guilmon, you hate to see it, so the Tamers have no choice but to follow them to the digital world. And this time, the digital world isn't the pixelated playground it was in Adventures 01 and 02. It's a surreal hostile landscape that feels more like a fever dream rather than some mystical forest you found in Adventure 01 and 02. And it's here we finally meet the boss of the Devas, the Digi-Sovereigns, who all look sick, by the way. And as for the Sovereigns, they're based on the 4 symbols of Chinese mythology, also known as the 4 auspicious beasts, or the 4 gods. And now everyone who's watched this video has learned something new. You'll love to see it. You're welcome, by the way. And you can thank me by liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel. I know I'm asking for a lot, but look at all this knowledge and whatnot you're learning. You only get that here at the Remio channel, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. A little like and a sub never hurt nobody. I'm just saying. But no, honestly, a like and a sub go a long way. So if you do, thanks in advance. Anyway, the Sovereign are ancient beings who see human as a threat to their system and way of life. So this is the arc where they gotta deal with that. Also, this is the arc they meet Rio, the legendary tamer, who is a whole other thing within himself. Not to mention, he is a Wonder Swan tie-in, and that's really cool. But what's even cooler is his partner Digimon, Cyberdramon, who is so cool, man. I mean, look at this thing, guys. Is this not sick as all get out? And if that wasn't cool enough, he becomes a common rider in his mega form. Like, how is this thing allowed to be so cool? I might throw up, dog. I'm getting sick from how cool this thing is. Okay, breathe, Remy, breathe. Okay, I lost myself with the fanboy real fast. Back on topic. So Ryo and Cyberdramon are basically a walking warning label for what happens when the human Digimon bond gets a little bit messy and one's a bit more aggro. And while in the digital world, hijinks ensue, people get new partners, people get new Digimon, a couple of good and bad things happen, and all things considered, they're handling the situation they find themselves in pretty well. Well, until tragedy strikes. Introducing Guilmon. While he has been here from the beginning, he plays a major role during this arc. He's desperate for power and recognition, and it makes a deal with the Sovereign to become the GOAT, Beelzemon. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna throw up. He's so freaking cool, man. Like, how is this design allowed? This mother is so cool, it's dumb. Because there is no way you expect me to believe anybody thought this was gonna come from Guilmon, the annoying little brother type Digimon. But this man becomes a mega level Digimon, gets a leather jacket, dual sawed-off shotguns, a living motorcycle, and shows up and bodies everybody. Like, what? What? Oh, I'm gonna throw up again, and not to mention even blast mode. Oh, I'm gonna throw up. It's so sick, dog. Like, what? Oh, it's but then he's got that X antibody form, which is it's kind of whatever. I guess I gotta calm down. Thank you, X antibody form. I'm calming down because you're so mid. Anyway, me being overhyped aside, this marks the real turning point in Digimon Tamers and the Digimon franchise as a whole, leading into one of the darkest moments in the franchise till this point. In one of his earliest appearances, Bielsmon kills Guilmon, just off rip, stabs him through the chest, emotionally devastating Jerry and sending her into a spiral of grief that she's never known. And when I first saw this as a kid, I was genuinely confused because I was under the whole notion this is just Pokemon with digital monsters. But I was very naive and then realized, oh, he's permanently dead. Huh. My opinions of Digimon changed after that day. As a whole, the Digital World arc in Digimon Tamers pushes the group forward as a whole, forcing the group to not just level up emotionally, but literally level up their Digimon. Instead of getting the generic stock footage we're digivolving to our ultimate level, this arc forces them to become something more, biomerging, literally fusing with their Digimon to fight as one. Takato in this arc fuses with Guilmon to become Gallinmon, and I gotta admit, the worst part of this whole thing is the voice they gave Gallinmon, because wow, it is the most unserious thing you have ever heard in your life. It is Takato and Guilmon talking over each other in sync, and it is so goofy.
Hey, what's going on here, huh?
Bielzemon, you rejected every friendship offered you. In return, you betrayed them and destroyed a valiant soul. I cannot forgive what you have done.
It is unbelievably so goofy and unserious. It undercuts any tension any moment with them could have, because it does not fit at all. It is off-putting, and I hate it. I hate it so much, because the Gallimon looks sick, but then you hear Takato and you're like Guilmon, Takato, and it's like it doesn't work. It does not work. And then you hear Guilmon talking in coherent sentences, and it's just like, this doesn't, I don't approve of this. It makes me genuinely uncomfortable when you have the Guilmon voice trying to talk in a full sentence like he has more than 2 light bulbs blinking on and off in his head. I don't approve of this. I don't approve of this at all. But it's not just Takato and Guilmon. Henry and Terriermon become Mega Gargamon, and then Rika and Renamon become victims of fan art. I mean Sakuyamon. But I will say this about Sakuyamon, she has the best Biomerge Digievolution sequence out of all of them. They drew her so well. They knew she had something special, because clearly she was the favorite and has aged so much better than the CGI Digievolutions for the Megas. I don't know why they didn't all do them hand-drawn, but it is what it is. But hers clearly is the best. With the main trio all reaching Mega level, the end is in sight, and without question, every evolution to this point has felt earned. Every battle feels personal, and these scars these kids have received are proof of their growth as characters. And now finally, we are at the end game of Tamers. So the group finally comes back from the digital world, and just when it seems like the Tamers can finally catch their breath, nah, no. They've got to deal with a new digital force of nature that also might be an Eldritch horror. I'm talking about the real nightmare of this franchise, of the series, the final boss, the D-Reaper. Who, by the way, isn't even a Digimon. It's a rogue program originally meant to delete all data that grew too dangerous. And it sees humanity as a problem that needs erasing. Because of course it does. A rogue AI not liking humanity, considering it a virus, then deleting it. Wonder where I've heard that story before. Gee Whittaker's, that's just so original. Yep, yes sirree Bob. Hey yo, nobody talks like that anymore. Yo, shut up. Shut up. I know that. I'm doing a bit. Alright, chill. Alright? Dang. Why are you talking so much in today's video, man? You never do this. You keep me locked up in the editing room. It's boring. I'm bored. That's fair enough. Alright, whatever. For the D-Reaper to manifest, it uses Jerry's grief as a foothold, abducting her and creating puppet copies of her to mock her and her pain. It expands across Tokyo, leaving destruction in its wake, proving that this isn't just another monster of the week, this is a full-on invasion of a hostile entity. It's so grand that the Tamers this time, they're not fighting alone. Hypno and the Monster Makers come together to stop the end of the world because desperate times and desperate measures and whatnot. And they create programs and battle plans to give the Tamers a fighting chance. For the first time, the adults and the kids unite to fight a common enemy, which still may be the adults' fault, but we're gonna look at the nice gray area where they all help each other. And in this final arc, This pushes everybody to their limits. Takato proves himself as a leader, Henry balances his compassion with decisive action, and Rika fights not for glory or for anger, but for her friends. And even Itmon finds redemption, i.e. he gets blast mode back. My boy is sick and I'm not gonna do it again, but just blast mode is so cool. Are y'all clean yourself up? Hey man, chill. It ain't even like that. It's just really cool. It's just really cool. And all this comes to a point where everybody's story arcs converge and we finally reach the pinnacle, and at that point, we finally see the D-Reaper neutralized. But this victory comes at a cost, because the crisis is over. But here comes the cruel twist. The programs that saved humanity also make it impossible for the Digimon to remain in the real world. The Tamers are forced to say goodbye to their partners, and not in the all dogs go to heaven kind of way, just the you may not be here, but you'll be alive with me in spirit kind of way. And with that, Takato, Rika, and Henry watch the Digimon vanish. And with the group still carrying the weight of everything they've been through, this part really drives home the message of Tamers, and that is growing up means facing loss. But it also means being able to overcome that loss and becoming stronger from it, not letting it hold you down and being stuck in the mud with it, but rising above the situation. But don't get me wrong, Tamers doesn't completely end on a sad note. In its final moments, Takato discovers a portal to the digital world, so that leaves a little bit of hope for tomorrow for our group. In my opinion, these 3 arcs show why Tamers wasn't just another sequel. It was a story about kids learning about responsibility, grief, and what love really means, while government, scientists, and literal elders gods were trying to decide the fate of 2 worlds. And if that isn't peak storytelling, I don't know what is. Digimon Tamers isn't just kids get monsters, monsters fight. It's more like kids get monsters, and then their entire worldview collapses. This show digs into how humans would really handle a living, breathing digital creature just roaming around the streets. And if you couldn't tell from the government's reaction by making a secret organization to deal with it, it's not very well. But on the other hand, who does handle the situation very well is our main cast of characters, aka the Tamers. So first off, we gotta talk about our leader, the new kid with the goggles that's running the show, Takato, and his partner, Guilmon. So Takato's very interesting. Unlike other Digidestins up to this point, his Digimon didn't technically exist until he drew him in the sketchbook, which is a pretty interesting origin story for Digimon. To this point, Digimon have always kind of existed prior. Now we see the origins of one and one developing a personality. So when Guilmon talks like a baby, it makes sense because he was born only a couple months ago. And this leads into the whole fact it sounds awesome to get your own pet Digimon until you realize he manifested a red dinosaur with the destructive power of a tank that doesn't understand what he's doing wrong sometimes. That also kind of goes feral every time he sees another Digimon, which is concerning to say the least. Thankfully, throughout the course of the series, he gets that under control, mostly due to Takato becoming less of a friend and more of a parent. It's messy, it's scary, but when he finally accepts the responsibility of being a 12-year-old parent, oh man, their bond becomes strong enough that Guilmon and Takato are able to bio-digivolve by the end of the series. And you can't talk about Guilmon without bringing up the whole Digi-Hazard thing at least once. So for the diehard Digimon fans that already know what the whole Digi-Hazard thing is, you got it. But let me talk to the new people that may not know what that is. Let me break it down for you real fast. If you do know already, just, chill in the back, maybe get a snack, come back. You've been here a while, you've been watching some good content. Get you some water, get you a new snack, and come back after a little while. You already know I'll still be here when you come back. All right, for the rest of you who didn't leave, let me explain what a Digi-Hazard is real fast. So, have you ever noticed those weird symbols and runes on Guilmon and his evolution line? Well, those are Digi-Hazard symbols, and it's represented by a trefoil-like symbol, resembling a mix between a biohazard and a radiation warning mark. It signifies the potential of immense destruction within a Digimon, especially if that Digimon's data becomes corrupted or misused. If unchecked, a Digimon carrying this mark could endanger both the digital world and the human world. This term also extends to a catastrophic event or phenomena that threatens the stability of the digital world. And our favorite red dinosaur Knight has them all over his body. Our best red dinosaur Guilmon bears the Digi-Hazard mark around his chest in all of his evolutionary forms. And interestingly enough, In his initial sketch, he doesn't have the Digi-Hazard symbol. It just kind of appears after it becomes real and becomes a real threat, I guess, to society. And that would explain his random and uncontrollable aspects he used to have as a rookie and a champion, and why to some extent he needed to be tamed, which plays into the original theme of the series in my opinion. And what would a good show be without showing us the consequences of that symbol? So there is a crash out moment for Guilmon and Takato in this series, which makes sense. It is a completely valid crash out. Unlike when Agumon became Skull Greymon, this crash out makes complete sense. You just watch Leomon die, you're like, nah, you can't just slide on us like that and just walk away. So he crashes out and it makes complete sense, and so we get Magidramon. And when I tell you, this design is so sick. I'm not gonna overgas it like I did for the other few, but like, this design is so cool, man. It is easily one of the most impressive dragon designs in all of Digimon in my opinion, and clearly is the embodiment of a Digi-Hazard. If you see this thing, and if you read its actual lore is like, all right, well, why am I breathing still? It's so crazy. His X-Antibodies form description is the literal incarnation of hell. Like, what, brother? How? That is so metal. That is so metal. Calling him a Digi-Hazard might be an understatement. Just like, dude, this thing is so freaking cool. He's not even on demon time. He's on his own time, and that's scary enough. When Guilmon becomes this evil dragon, this triggers a Digi-Hazard event. The digital world fractures with fissures and erupts into red light, causing the digital world to shake forever. And this triggers the emergence of the D-Reaper. And then you already know how that plays out. Overall, the digital hazard serves as a stark metaphor for the dangers of unchecked power, emotional instability, and the darker potential within all beings. Guilmon embodies this duality. While playful, curious, and incredibly kind-hearted, his very nature contains seeds of destruction. His journey with Takato demonstrates that the hazard is not inherent evil, but a latent risk, one that could be contained and redirected through love and responsibility. And it's with this bond that allows him to reach his mega form and eventually even reach higher heights with Guilmon Crimson mode, which I didn't really talk about till right now because he didn't really show up to like the last episode practically. Does one really cool thing and then just disappears like, I gotta be somewhere else. Like, I get it. It's a plot MacGuffin. He Deus Ex Machinas, whatever you gotta do. It's a very cool form. It didn't do anything, and I feel like it gets overgassed by the community because of how cool it looks. And it does look very cool. I'm not saying it doesn't. It's just that me, personally, I don't have a very huge attachment to somebody that did one cool thing and then just disappeared and no one ever mentions it again. It's like, all right, he did this thing. That's cool. Goodbye forever. See you never. You know, I just can't feel myself emotionally attached to this character. Design, once again, super sick. The rest of Guilmon Crimson mode, whatever. And that's Takato and Guilmon. Now for Henry and best little buddy, Terriermon. Let's go. Let's go. Terriermon, baby. Let's go. Overall, Henry is the calm pacifist type. He doesn't want his Digimon fighting at all. I totally get it. And honestly, can you blame him? Have you seen Terriermon? Have you seen this little thing, this little bundle of joy that should be cherished and respected and protected? Because oddly enough, this little bunny dog thing is a little battle gremlin that you should not underestimate because he wants to smoke and he wants to give out some fades. The little scamp. Ah, this guy. Look at this Momentai. It's so adorable. This thing. But unfortunately though, Henry sees this as guilt of hurting others and he reflects it back onto him. He doesn't want to actually hurt people. Henry's overall a really nice guy. Unfortunately though, Terriermon is just a really aggressive little gremlin. This dude really wants to fight things. He's like, hey man, there's a time to fight and there's not a time to fight. And we were on fight o'clock. Why are you not fighting? And because of this, the two of them are constantly pulling each other in opposite directions. But eventually, Henry does realize that sometimes you have to fight to protect what matters. And that's when they finally become a Gundam. And Henry stops being the voice of reason and realizes that sometimes in life, to protect what really does matter, you have to fight. You have to fight for what you believe in, what you care about, and what you want to protect. And Henry embodies that after he becomes a Gundam pilot. This is like the greatest character growth of all time. Also, Terriermon. Once again, look at this thing. Look at this thing. It's just the best thing. There are many things like this thing, but this is my thing. And no one else can have my thing. This is a little buddy. This is my little buddy. You cannot have little buddy. This is mine. Get a Pikachu. You can have Pikachu. I don't want it. I want Terriermon. And last of the main trio, we have Rika and Renamon. Rika is the Digimon Queen. No relation to the Digimon Emperor, she doesn't beat Renamon, but she does treat Renamon like a weapon, a tool, a way to prove that she's the strongest. It's cold, it's calculated, and it hides how badly she's been hurt in her real life. especially by her mother that constantly forgets she's even alive. But while this is happening, Renamon isn't oblivious to this fact that she's being used as a tool instead of a living thing, and she plays along with it for a bit. And deep down, Renamon knows this isn't sustainable. And the turning point comes when Renamon nearly sacrifices her life to protect Rika. And this is the moment where Rika finally gets a crack in her armor. She allows herself to be loved and cared for by someone else because she's been hurt before, but she won't let that hurt define her for the rest of her time. And from now on, she sees Renamon as a partner, a friend, and eventually a part of her family. And by the end of this series, she's built one of the most compelling bonds in the entire franchise. Some fans argue that Rika is probably the best female lead character Digimon has ever had. And you know what? I don't disagree with them. Now for the other side of her fandom, they have their own demons to fight. A lot of them got demons. And look, I was scared to Google her name looking for pictures because y'all have made it hard to search Renamon on Google. Oh man, y'all made it hard to search Renamon on Google, dog. Even with safe search on, y'all made it hard. I ain't gonna lie to you, dog. It was so much. So much. Okay, I'm done. Next, we have Jerry and Leomon. At first glance, Jerry looks like sweet comic relief. She's very cheerful. She uses a sock puppet to talk to Digimon, which low-key has always been kind of weird. But we rock with her because she's nice and stuff. So, overall, normal kid stuff for the most part. But Jerry carries baggage with her that she hasn't unloaded anywhere yet. Her mother died, and her relationship with her father, we'll just say it's complicated. But then Leomon becomes her anchor, which for us, the viewers, should have been a huge red flag in hindsight. Nevertheless, Leomon was more than just a partner Digimon for her. He was a protector, a source of stability, a foundation which her life was being built upon again. But then he dies. He gets killed right in front of her. It's not just a sad moment, it's devastating. And this becomes a catalyst that triggers one of the darkest spirals ever seen on Foxbox and ABC Family. This spiral leads into Jerry's grief, making her a medium for the D-Reaper, who literally hijacks her pain to fuel its own existence. Her arc isn't about winning battles or anything of that nature, it's about how a person can climb back from the brink of despair, even if it hurts and even if it takes a while. And learning how to live with someone even if they did you wrong. Forgiveness isn't something that comes easy, and Jerry is proof of that. But eventually, she does learn how to forgive someone who's done her so wrong. That's not to say she forgot it, but she's also willing to move past it to some extent. Another very important key player in this season will be Guilmon. You can't talk about Tamers without talking about Guilmon. And don't let that cuteness fool you. This little guy is the source code of Digi-Evolution itself. Without him, there is no more Digi-Evolution, which really sucks because that's pretty cool. He's also low-key the hidden MVP of the season. While as annoying as he is sometimes, he's also what keeps the story from being too depressing at moments, so you gotta give him his little flowers every once in a while, even though he is also incredibly annoying sometimes. And that's it for the really important characters for the most part. Obviously, I'm leaving out a few characters because overall, I don't know if they're that important for the overarching story. If you like the characters I left out, by all means, like them to the best of your abilities. Me personally though, if I didn't talk about them, I don't think they're the most crucial for the overarching story and the narrative I'm trying to drive with this video. So if you like them, I love them, but if you don't, that's okay. And if I don't like them, that's also okay. So all that to say, this isn't just a story about some kids and their monsters coming together with some preordained destiny to save the world. This is about kids that are forced to grow up with monsters that force them to become more human and more open to their own emotions. So when I say Tamers is different, it's because they don't pull their punches with their characters. And by the end of this, the Digimon aren't just partners. They aren't something they just tamed. They're family. Okay, characters are done now. And finally, we can talk about the fun stuff, the extra media stuff. And you can't talk about Tamers without talking about the card game. So one of the more interesting aspects of Digimon Tamers is its deep integration of the real-life Digimon trading card game, with the most direct link being in the card slash of the Digimodify mechanics. This is the sequence where Tamers will swipe cards to their D-Arcs to grant their partners temporary boosts, weapons, or abilities. And this would mirror the way players in the TCG use cards to enhance their Digimon in battles. On another note, the anime would also show characters, especially Takato, playing the card game outside of combat, just to help reinforce how popular the game is in universe. For example, think how everyone in Yu-Gi-Oh! Only plays Yu-Gi-Oh! How there's no other real games besides Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what Tamers was doing. And in doing so, it helped blur the lines between fiction and merchandising for fans and collectors. So, was Tamers promoting the TCG? Maybe. It's not like the TCG came out around the same time as Tamers. Prior to this, the TCG had already been around, specifically since 1997, several years before Tamers. So rather than it just be a general tie-in, they wanted to make the card game an organic part of the story. And that's why it was so prominent during the beginning of the series, where everybody was learning about each other and establishing and setting up power hierarchies, comparatively towards the end of the season, where none of the Tamers even know what a Digimon card is anymore, because they don't need it when they hit Ultimate Plus when it comes to power leveling. So organically, when the Tamers all became strong enough to where they did need the cards, they just naturally stopped using them and no one really questioned it. So in the end, the connection between Digimon Tamers and the TCG was symbiotic. The anime enriched its storytelling by weaving in the cards into the universe naturally, while the show in turn elevated the profits and the reach of the TCG outside in the real world, even when the card game mechanics naturally faded out in the story. Definitely gone but not forgotten, because their presence left a lasting impression. Because honestly, me as a little kid who wanted a D-Arc really bad just so he could do the slash, because it looked so cool every time they did it in the show. So they worked with me. Their marketing got me. I used to want a D-Arc and Digimon cards for that specific reason. I didn't care about the card game. I just wanted to do that probably like twice a week and then be tired of it. I'm very simple. I bought a PET as a kid. Those PETs are horrible, but like, they were cool enough that I wanted one as a child. Okay, but card games aside, let's talk about the video games now. Here's the weird part about Digimon Tamers. It didn't just live on TV. Like most Digimon properties back then, you always had good cross-promotion via different mediums. A great example of that would be Rio, the video game tie-in character that got added into the season. And not to mention, by the time he shows up in Tamers, Rio had already been in multiple video games and fighting Millenniumon and dealing with other cosmic nonsense. So by the time he shows up in Tamers, this boy has clearly seen some stuff. There's also games like Battle Spirits, which was also another Wonder Swan game, and eventually it became a GBA game, which for lack of better words was honestly a Digimon meets Smash Bros kind of game. And for another Smash Bros-esque game, you have Rumble Arena, or in Japan you would call it Battle Evolution, which pulled characters from the first 3 seasons into a chaotic fighter and have them go at it for fun, like Digimon World 3 or Battle Spirits 2. But Battle Spirits 2 is something we'll get to when we cover Frontiers. But for right now, we can talk about other media that has Tamers directly involved in it, like the manga. Because if you know me, you realize by now, most things I was interested in the early 2000s had to have a manga related to it. So like a few people in the early 2000s, I didn't have cable growing up. So the way I got into Digimon Tamers personally was reading the manga. I read the entire manga series first before I even knew there was an anime. Shout out local libraries holding it down since 2000 whatever, and still trying even though the government won't fund them. Y'all go to y'all's local libraries and just show some kindness to your librarians. They do so much for people that don't have stuff, and in my opinion, librarians don't get enough flowers even though they deserve them. And it wasn't just mangas, they also had movies, 2 to be specific. First up, the Battle of Adventures in 2001. For this movie, the setup's pretty simple. It's summer vacation. Sounds pretty chill, right? Well, wrong. Because Mephistomon, a Digimon born from the leftover data of Apocalypmon, hijacks the real world with a computer virus. And not just any virus, it's a virus that spreads through V-Pets, these little virtual pets everyone's obsessed with. And because of this, planes crash, water supply gets cut, electricity is fried, civilization is put on pause practically. Enter Minami. She's a new character, a girl tied into the very first V-Pet prototype. Her father built a hidden vaccine program inside of it conveniently, so she becomes the key to stopping Mephistomon's chaos. And as for the second movie called Runaway Locomon in 2002, this is unique because it takes place 6 months after the anime ended. So the movie starts like this. The Tamers want to throw Rika's surprise birthday party, but then boom, giant Digimon train shows up wreaking havoc inside of Tokyo like crazy. Shenanigans ensue. The Tamers eventually have to team up to defeat the evil Digimon who's controlling the train. I won't say who, because if you haven't seen this movie, this was actually pretty good. I highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen this one. In my opinion, this is like a secondary ending for Tamers that leaves the ending a little bit more optimistic for our main trio comparatively to the actual ending the anime gave us. So that's it. We have talked about all I want to talk about for Tamers. I have yapped in your ear for over 30 minutes. So thank you once again if you watched up to this part. But I want to leave you with this. Tamers proved that Digimon wasn't just a Pokemon knockoff everyone thought it could have been. Because Tamers is remembered as the experimental season, the one that dared to go too far but maybe not far enough. Even later seasons like say Savers and Ghost games borrow their tone from, but to a lesser degree. And it's the one the fans still ask the IP to go back to. Because Digimon Tamers wasn't afraid to be different. It took the familiar idea of kids and their partners, But instead of straightforward good versus evil, it gave us questions about reality, imagination, and what it means to grow up. And the best example of this is Guilmon. He wasn't just a partner, he was a responsibility. And the battles weren't just about power, they were about survival. And that ending, it didn't hand us an easy answer. It just left us with a reminder that even when the adventure is over, the bonds we created still matter. That's what makes Tamers stick with people. Even years later, it wasn't the flashiest season, or the happiest, that's for sure, but it was the one that dared to treat its audience with self-respect and trusting they could handle something a bit bigger, something scarier, and something real. And that's why I say this wasn't just another chapter in the Digimon story. It was a season that showed us what Digimon could be. And honestly, that lesson is worth revisiting every single time. So, hey, I'm Remy. Thanks for letting me check on Digimon for the Digimon franchise retrospective. We have been Tamers for the last almost an hour. When I tell you, Tamers is probably my favorite season in all of Digimon. This video length is here to prove it. So once again, if you have watched this video to this length, to this time period, to this time stamp, I thank you. I thank you so much because you put up with me yapping for so long. I can barely do that myself, and I had to edit this. So, thanks once again for liking, subscribing, following, and anything else you do with this video. Bad comments, good comments, I'm just glad you're interacting with it. I want everyone who watches this to know this video took almost a month. Almost a month. I have been prepping this for a month in the back end, and I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's not perfect. Nothing I'll do will ever be perfect enough for me or for anybody. But if you liked it at all, I appreciate that enough. So once again, I am Remy. This has been the Digimon franchise retrospective. I will see you in the next one. Y'all be easy. Later. Okay, man, we are at the end, and I'm so tired, guys. By the time I'm done recording this, what time is this? This is now 2:40 a.m. I have to edit this now. Obviously, this is going to be pre-editing, so this is some raw thoughts. I'm not scripted anymore. Just, dude, I really like Digimon. I really like Digimon, dog. I really like Digimon. Oh, man, I'm saying it so many times. But I just want to say once again, thank you. I know I'm saying thank you a lot, but whatever. I'm just really happy this video came out. It has been a long time coming. Shout out my boy Bloom. If he does the thumbnail, this part will be in here. If he doesn't, this will be awkward and I'll cut it. But if he does do it, thanks Bloom for doing the thumbnail, dude. You came through when you didn't have to, and I appreciate it so much for you for doing that. Obviously, I'm a big fan of his artwork, so if you have seen Bloom's thumbnail art, he did the first Digimon franchise retrospective thumbnail. You can go look at it on the channel right now. If you like his style, hit him up for commissions or just go watch his YouTube channel. He does cool Thursday stuff. I love the guy's work. So, yeah, that's it for me on this part. I will see y'all in the next Digimon video. We will be going to the new frontier, and I will not have that video be this long. No video is going to be this long for Digimon, I'm pretty sure, after this. Because I like Frontier, but the theme song is mostly what carries it. All right. Goodbye, I'm leaving. Oh gosh, I'm leaving. Bye. Okay.